it trills through my core and down my limbs. A glittering fire sparkling inside of my veins, taking my body captive as I writhe under his touch, our hands clenched together. All I can think in this moment is that this man is obscene. He doesn't give me a chance to gather all the pieces he just broke me into when he jerks me up and pushes me to sit on my heels as he stands on his knees before me. Fisting my hair in each of his hands, he yanks my head back, looks down at me, demanding, "Suck my cock with that sweet mouth of yours." Before forcing my head down, but I take him willingly into my mouth. He doesn't give me any control as he tugs my hair, bobbing me up and down the length of him. I begin to fight his demanding ways, pushing my head back against his hands, wanting to move more slowly. But he's much stronger than me with my hands bound behind my back. "Don't fight me, Nina," he grunts, but I want to. I want to fight him, and he feels it, yelling in scolding grit, "Yield to me." But I don't, and he pulls my hair harder, biting on his sulphurous voice, "Yield to it. Trust me, baby." The whisper of his pleading demands seeps out through the cracks of his words. He doesn't know I hear it, but I do, and something about it makes me turn it over to him, giving him the control he so desperately needs for some reason. He moves me along the heat of his large cock as I let my tongue glide along the silky smooth flesh. The sounds spurring from him are nothing but primal lust, and when I feel him thicken in my mouth, he throws me back on the bed, straddles his knees on either side of me, pulling off a couple of hard pumps, right before he shoots his cum on my stomach and tits. His eyes are pinned to mine as he spreads himself on me while he continues to jerk himself off. I watch him. He's beautifully brutal with his merciless touch. He keeps my arms tied behind me as he lies down next to me and pulls me into his hold, hugging me against his strong body. I'm completely vulnerable to him, naked and restrained, but I'm not scared. He punished me, yes, but he'd never really hurt me. He keeps telling me to trust him, and I can at least trust knowing that I'm safe with him. So with my hands bound, my body goes limp, molding to his as he holds on to me. We lie there together, his cum drying on my skin, as he combs his fingers through my hair, saying, "I only want to smell myself on you," before he reaches behind me and unknots his tie. As soon as my hands are free, I sling my arms around his neck, needing the comfort and not quite knowing how to react after what just happened between us. He cradles the back of my head, pressing his lips to my ear, whispering, "I've got you, darling." And when I nod my head against his as I cling to him, he strengthens his hold on me as he breathes into my skin, "I adore you." My emotions are all over the place, and I don't know what to do with the feelings that overcome me. It's a sickening delight. I hate that he enjoys this with me, that he looks at me the way he does. But I really hate that I can't escape with him. He doesn't allow me that freedom, and it scares the shit out of me. My heart continues to race as I lie here, and he feels it, keeping me close to him and giving me a soft shh in my ear. He holds me in his arms in a nurturing way, but Declan is far more primal than nurturing, yet somehow he's able to blur those lines in moments like this. "I missed you," he eventually tells me. "I missed you too," I sigh. "But he's gone, so I'm all yours." "I don't just want you to be mine when he's gone, Nina. I want it all the time." "It's complicated, but I'm here with you, and I just want you now. No, Bennett, please," I urge. Declan moves to kiss me, keeping his touches soft and affectionate, as we slowly move together. And with his lips against mine, he mumbles, "How are you feeling? Did I hurt you?" "No." "I need you to know that I will always protect you," he says, his words reminiscent of my father's when I was younger. And when I pull away to look in Declan's eyes, I can see the truth behind them. "I know," I tell him. "Trust comes hard for me, but I'm trying." "Love that." I smile at my manipulations as they come so easily with him. It's like I don't even have to think or try. I just speak and he's putty in my hands. Eventually we fall asleep before waking a couple hours later. Declan orders up some food, and I lie, telling him that I need to be home because Bennett wanted to video chat later, and he would know if I wasn't at our place. Declan is frustrated, but we agree that we will get together tomorrow and spend these next 2 weeks together as much as possible. Truth is, I have to go to Pike tonight. Before I leave, Declan installs an app on my cell phone that will allow us to text without anything being tracked by phone records. His possessive ways make me laugh, but I'm curious to know why he is the way that he is. Chapter 24. Present. It's nearing midnight and my stomach is in knots when I pull up to Pike's trailer. I turn the car off and sit for a moment. The sounds of the sharp wind blowing over the snow-covered ground fill the silence. My nerves keep multiplying the longer I sit here. I've known that this day would eventually come, but the realness that it's finally here pangs in my gut. When I get out of the car and walk inside the trailer, Pike doesn't say a word when he comes over to me. My face is stone as I stand there. "Hey," he says in a gentle voice. "Hey." "So?" "So," I begin, and then tell him with a nod. "This is it." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Pike places his hands hesitantly along my jaw, asking, "So we're doing this?" "Yes." My voice trembles, but I muster up my strength, resisting all the emotions I feel swarming around the two of us. "Are you scared?" I nod my head, giving him my honest answer through my hardened facade. And he nods along with me, letting me know I'm not alone, but we both know it's up to me to pull this off. "Don't be scared. Remember what we're doing this for," he tells me, his eyes burning with intensity. "This is for your father. This is for you and everything you were stripped of. You wanted a new life. We're almost there, Elizabeth. Can you taste it? The fairy tale?" "Yeah," I breathe. "So we fight the monsters first," he says, and then softly presses his lips to mine, and when he pulls away, I slip off my coat and toss it aside before looking up at Pike. Swallowing hard, telling him, "I'm ready." "Say it again." "I'm ready." "Close your eyes," he instructs, and I do. I stand here and feel the warmth of Pike's hand brush down the side of my cheek as he whispers to me, "This is for you," before taking his comforting hand away. My heart crashes inside my chest as I wait, and then it comes, Pike's hard fist barreling into the side of my face and over my eye. A blast of pain singeing across my cheek and down my nose as my body collapses to the floor. Pike then grabs a hold of my wrist, moving my hand that's covering my eye away from my face, and hammers down another powerful fist across my cheek. My screams are strained as I cry them out, and Pike instantly covers my body with his, holding me in his arms and cradling my head against his chest as I cry in agony. My face is hot, tingling as I feel the immediate swelling. Pike continues to hold me, rocking me back and forth, reminding me over and over why we are doing this, but he doesn't need to convince me. I know why I'm doing this. As my tears dry, the pounding of an oncoming headache dulls out the piercing throbs down my face. I don't even need to say anything when Pike picks me up off the floor and carries me to his bed. "I'll be right back," he says, and then walks out of the room, only to return a few moments later with a glass of water and 2 Tylenol. "Here, take these." Swallowing the pills, I set the glass down and lay my head back on the pillows. "How bad does it hurt?" Pike asks. "I have a really bad headache." "Your eye?" "It all hurts, but it's okay. I don't want you to feel bad or apologize," I tell him as he lies down next to me. "How does it look?" I ask. He reaches out to touch the tender skin, and I flinch back at the pain. "Sorry," he mutters. "It's really swollen and pink right now. It's starting to bruise. You'll have a nasty black eye for sure by the time you wake up tomorrow." I nod, and can't help the evil smile that creeps along my lips and then turns into laughter. Pike hesitates before allowing his smile to appear, and when I see it, I roll onto my back as my laughter grows louder. Clutching my belly, I feel deranged, like somehow I'm on top of the world, celebrating our devilish game, and basking in the glory of my growing black eye. The past few years have been spent bonding a marriage to look like nothing other than a happy couple who is completely devoted and in love with one another. It seemed as if getting to this point of destruction would never come, but here it is in the grasp of our fingertips. And now the emotions of stress, loneliness, doubt, and determination come to fruition as they spill out of me in this crazy display of morbid laughter. When we start to calm down and compose ourselves, I roll over to face Pike, asking, "Am I crazy?" "Aren't we all a little crazy?" Smiling, I say, "A simple no would suffice." "No." I straighten my expression, and when Pike turns his head to look at me, I remind him, "I love you." "I know you do." "No," I say. "You've never wavered on me. After all these years, you've always been my constant, from the moment we met when I was 8 years old. You're the best brother anyone could ever have, and I really love you." Turning on his side, his fingers feather along my swollen cheekbone as he leans in and kisses me, running his tongue along my bottom lip. I pull him in closer, tangling my legs with his as he shifts on top of me. We begin to undress each other, and I'm ready to take what only Pike has been able to give me. Moving my naked body with his, I reach down to grab his hardened dick and then guide it inside of me. And finally, I'm able to escape from everything around me. Waking up in my bed the next morning, the side of my face throbs in heated rhythm with my heartbeat. I haven't put ice on it to help with the swelling because I need it to look as bad as possible. I know Pike felt like shit last night after hitting me the way he did, the way he had to, but I tried assuring him that I'm okay. As I walk across the room and into the bathroom, I look at my reflection in the mirror. Pike was right. There's a nasty black and blue bruise around my eye and along the crest of my cheek. I reach up to touch the swollen flesh and wince. The bruise is tender, and the side of my face looks horrific. It's perfect. I go ahead and take a quick shower and get dressed, slipping on a pair of jeans and a long cashmere sweater, dabbing on just a light touch of powder and lip gloss. The chime of my phone comes as I expected, with Declan's text. "Miss you." I type my response. "Miss you too. Come to my place. I need to touch you." My devious smile grows while I type out my next text. "I can't. I'm not feeling well." "You okay?" "Just sick." "I'll come pick you up and bring you here." He responds just as I predicted, so I continue to goad him to me with my replies. "Thanks, but I'm just going to stay here today." "You avoiding me?" "No, I just don't feel good." "Then let me take care of you." As I'm typing out my next text, the phone begins ringing in my hand, displaying Declan's name on the screen. "Why are you calling me?" I ask when I answer. "Why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not. I told you, I'm not feeling well." "So instead of lying on your bed, lie in my bed. I'm coming to pick you up. Pack a bag," he insists in a calm tone, but I resist, telling him, "Declan, no." He lets go of a sigh and then questions, "What's going on?" I pause, and with an uneven voice, lacking confidence, I murmur, "Nothing. Just nothing." "You're lying to me." "Declan, please." "I'm on my way," he snaps, hanging up before I can respond. He'll be here shortly, and I've no time to waste getting excited. I have to look the part, so I focus my attention on the one thing that always destroys me, my dad. I sit on one of the couches in the living room, stare out at the gray, snow-filled day, and let my mind drift to him, to my childhood, to everything that hurts me. I think about pink daisies and the feel of my father's whiskers poking me with his kisses. And then I think about the first time I went to his grave, coming face to face with the reality that he was really dead. After a while, I'm not even thinking about Declan. I'm solely consumed with pain and sadness as I cry into my hands. My throat knots as the misery takes over, but the jerk of reality comes when the house phone rings, and I know Declan is here. "Hello?" I say when I answer the call.
"Mrs. van der Waal, this is Manuel. I have a Mr. McKinnon here to see you."
Yes. Go ahead and send him up, please."
"Will do. Good day, miss."
I hang up the phone as a few more tears seep out, and I let them linger on my skin as I wait for the knock, and when it comes, I look at my splotchy face, bloodshot eyes, and bruises in the hallway mirror before walking over, ducking my head down, and slowly inching the door open, saying, "Declan, you shouldn't be here."
"Let me in, Nina."
Turning my face away from him, I walk into the living room as he follows from behind.
"What's going on?"
he questions, and when I don't respond, he grabs my arm and turns me around.
"Fucking Christ,"
he says with a horrified look on his face when he sees my black eye.
"What the hell happened?"
Covering my face with my hands, I begin to cry again. It's easy to do with my current state of mind. He doesn't miss a beat when he pulls me into his arms and holds me while I quietly weep, wetting his shirt with my tears.
"Darling, what happened?"
"Bennett was here when I got home last night," I lie. Gripping my shoulders, he pulls away to look down at me, his eyes filled with venom when he asks,
"He did this?"
The tears drip off my chin, and I slowly nod as I watch his face turn to pure rage, his grip on my arms tightening.
"I'm gonna fucking kill that bastard,"
he growls.
"Go pack your bags. You're coming with me."
"Declan."
"Now, Nina. I can't even fucking think straight. Go pack your shit. You're not staying here,"
he snaps, and I don't say anything else when I turn to walk into my bedroom and to my closet. I begin to quickly pack my bags, and as I walk back out, Declan is pacing the room. When he looks up at me, he rushes over, takes the bags out of my hands, and tucks me under his arm.
"Where's your coat?"
he quietly asks, and when I point to the foyer closet, he wastes no time. He pulls out my coat, slips it over my arms, and then hands me my purse. I quickly put my sunglasses on before we walk out the door. He doesn't speak as we take the elevator down and head outside to his car. He tosses the bags in the trunk, and then we are on our way to his place. His grip on the steering wheel is firm, knuckles white, muscles flexed. With his focus on the road, I watch his jaw clenching as he grinds his teeth. When we finally make it to his place, his silence remains as we walk into his loft. With my hand in his, he leads me back to his bedroom. Tossing my bags onto the floor, he sits me down on his bed and gently removes my sunglasses. His eyes look over at my face, examining my swollen cheek and black eye. I flinch when he touches it, and he whispers a quick apology before reaffirming,
"I'm serious, Nina. I want to kill him for doing this to you."
"It's not that bad," I mumble as I drop my head.
"Have you fucking seen your face? It's pretty fucking bad."
He takes a moment and a few deep breaths before softening his voice.
"I'm sorry. I don't want to yell at you. Just,
why don't you lie down?"
"I'll be right back, okay?"
"Okay." Declan leaves the room, and when he returns with an ice pack, he takes a seat next to me on the bed where I'm lying down and gently places it over the side of my face. Wincing at the contact, I close my eyes and place my hand over his as he holds it in place.
"Tell me what happened,"
he whispers as he looks down at me. "When I got home last night, he was there. I had told him that I was spending the afternoon with a friend, but he found out I was lying and delayed his flight until early this morning," I explain, and when a few tears seep out and roll down my temples, I continue. "He was mad and just—"
"Hit you?"
I nod, and he asks,
"He's done this before?"
When I nod again, I see the muscles in his neck strain. Sitting up, I lean back against the headboard and begin to cry, telling him, "I'm so scared, Declan. If he ever found out about us, I don't—"
"He won't find out," he jumps in.
"He could."
"He won't."
"He's not what people think."
"How long has this been going on?" he asks.
"Shortly after we married. It didn't start out bad, but now—"
"Come here,"
he says as he shifts to my side and drapes his arm around me, drawing me into his hold. He kisses the top of my head before saying,
"I can't let you go back to him."
"I have to."
"You don't have to do anything, Nina."
"It's not that simple. I'm terrified of what he'll do because he's capable of anything," I tell him as the remaining tears roll down my face. "This black eye is minor compared to—"
"To what? Christ, Nina, it looks like someone beat the shit out of you with a fucking bat. You have no idea what I want to do to that fucker right now. Just thinking about him having his hands on you is paralyzing."
The rage in his voice is unyielding, and his eyes are dilated in fury. "I'm sorry, I didn't want you to see—"
"You? The real you?"
He closes his eyes for a second, pinching the bridge of his nose, and then looks at me with sincerity.
"Don't ever hide from me. Not a single goddamn thing."
I don't respond, but he isn't waiting for me to when he wraps his arm around my waist and shifts us down into the sheets. My eyes close as he drops delicate kisses on my battered cheek and over my eye. With his lips against my skin, he breathes his words, saying,
"It kills me to know this about you."
"I don't want you to hurt for me."
"I'll always hurt for you. I want to hurt for you, to take it away from you so that I can bear it for the both of us," he whispers, and then seals his lips with mine in a passionate kiss. But he can't take my pain away. Nobody can. Pike tries, but it never lasts longer than a brief moment. My pain is threaded within the fibers of my existence, here to stay, a reminder that we all come in different forms of decrepit. Declan drags his lips away from mine, saying, "Open your eyes."
Blinking them open, I stare up into his green emeralds when he tells me,
"Leave him."
"It's not that simple."
"Leave him."
"It's not easy like that," I say, needing him to understand that I can't just walk away. But he moves past my words, telling me,
"I don't want easy. I want you."
I...
"Tell me what you feel for me,"
he says as he parts my legs and settles himself between my thighs. "I don't know if there's a word for it, because it's strong, but it can't be love."
"Why not?"
he says, his cock growing harder with each word spoken. "Because I've only known you a couple of months. It's crazy to think about how much I already feel for you. I feel crazy for having the feelings I have for you."
"Why?"
"Because I hardly know you."
"You know me,"
he states as he rocks his hips, pressing his erection into me. "Do I?"
"I adore you. Do you need to know anything else?"
My breathing grows unsteady as he continues to grind himself against me.
"Open up to me. Tell me how you feel. Give me the words,"
he insists. "I don't know," I release on a staggered voice.
"You do. You're just scared."
"Let me be scared then," I request, but he turns it down, saying,
"I won't ever let you be scared, baby."
He reaches back and pulls off his shirt before sitting on his haunches and telling me,
"Undo my pants."
Sitting up, I slip the leather strap of his belt out of the buckle and unzip his slacks. He watches me as I reach my hand inside of his boxers and take his stiff cock in my hand, curving my fingers around the thick shaft. Without taking our eyes away from each other, I begin to stroke along the velvet-smooth skin sheathing his rock-hard erection. When his breathing begins to falter, he grabs a hold of the end of his belt and pulls it free from his pants.
"Take your hands off me and put them above your head."
I lie down on my back and place my hands where I was told. He pulls my top off and unclasps my bra, tossing it to the floor before lacing his belt through the slats in the headboard, tying my wrists together, and securing them in an unrelenting bind.
Tell me how you feel right now.
As we look deeply into each other, I reveal softly, safe? And there's a part of me that doesn't believe that word is a lie.
Say it again.
Safe. Leaning down, he brushes his soft lips along my bruises.
Always.
He then begins running his warm lips down between my breasts, taking them both in his hands when he peers up to me.
Always safe with me.
Chapter 25. Present. The shock of cold touching my skin jolts me awake.
It's just me, darling,
Declan soothes as he presses an ice pack to my cheek.
I didn't want to wake you, but your bruises look to be swelling.
I stare up at him as he takes care of me, and just watch as he examines my face.
You okay?
Sleepy, I mumble as I move to sit up. Declan releases a soft growl when the sheet drops to my waist, exposing my naked breasts. You're obscene, I tease with a grin, and then pull the sheet up to cover me, but he yanks it away.
Don't cover yourself. You're too beautiful.
What about you? You expect me to be naked while you're fully clothed? I argue weakly with a smile. Dropping the ice pack onto the pillow, he stands beside the bed and looks down at me, saying,
You want me naked?
And when I nod, biting my lip, he tells me,
Then undress me.
Now, not only are you obscene, but obnoxious.
You love it,
he states with a devious smirk. Maybe.
Say it. Tell me you love it,
he urges. No, I squeak out in laughter, and with a stern tone he retorts,
Don't ever tell me no.
No, I repeat with a flirty wink. He crawls back into bed and over the top of me with a sexy growl.
Bad girl.
I thought I was a good girl.
Only when you listen well,
he responds as he lies next to me.
Come closer. Wrap yourself on me.
And I do, rolling over, draping my arm across his chest and wrapping my leg around him as he bands his arms around me.
You feel so good like this,
he releases on a heavy sigh. Like what?
Covering me like you want me.
You think I want you?
I can't seem to figure out what you want, he exhales. I hate that you won't let me inside your head.
I don't respond to his statement as we continue to hold each other, and after a while he breaks the silence, saying,
Why do you hide yourself from me?
Does it look like I'm hiding from you? I tease with a grin as I lie here naked. With a straight face, he lays his hand over my heart and says,
You're hiding this from me.
How do you know that?
Because I can see glimpses of it at times, of whatever pain is inside. Do you ever let yourself feel that, the pain?
Why would anyone want to feel pain? I whisper. Showing that exposes vulnerability, and vulnerability is your soul's weakness.
People are weak, Nina. It's just fact.
I don't want to be weak.
You're only human, he says. You bleed like everyone else, but you hide it.
And what about you? You like to control nearly every facet of your life. You wouldn't do that if you weren't attempting to bury something.
You're right, he willingly admits. I need control to deal with pain, but trust me when I tell you this. I feel that pain. I can temper it, but it's always there.
And then he hits my one tender spot when he asks,
You miss your parents?
And everything inside of me runs towards my dad. Yeah, I whisper on a pained breath as I feel my father's presence ache inside of my chest. And when the tears prick and my nose tingles, I close my eyes. Declan sees right through me, though.
Open your eyes.
But I don't. I keep them closed, saying with honesty, You want me to show you my pain, but I don't know how to do that. And when I open my eyes, the tears spill out.
You're doing it right now.
Pointing at my dampened cheeks, I state, This is weakness. With his hands cradling my head, he contradicts my words, saying,
This This is strength, before licking the salt of my pain. I hold on to his wrists as he rests his head against mine in this soft moment. I feel like I use Declan so much for this comfort I've never really had before. He gives it in a way that's different from Pike, and it feels good, peaceful. I know my time is limited with Declan, so I might as well take what I can while I have him. And in an unusual reaction for me, I reach down to the hem of his shirt and lift it up, peeling it away and dropping it to the floor. He takes my face in his large hands and holds me still as he looks down at me, and I swear he can see inside of me. I begin to unbutton his pants, and when he's finally naked with me, he drops his head to my chest, grazing the stubble of his jaw lightly over my nipple. The friction is replaced with the smooth softness of his tongue. I feel it between my legs when he sucks the pert bud into his mouth, as he continues to caress me with his tongue. His touches are soft, not like his usual display of dominance over me, and in this moment I need the softness. So as I nestle my fingers into his thick hair, I move his head to look up at me and breathe, "Don't tie me up. Not this time." He's never not restrained me or been forceful in his touch, so when he gives me a nod, I'm a bit surprised. This is the first time he's allowed me to touch him during sex, and in this moment of uncharacteristic fragility, I let my hands wander along the deep-cut lines of his muscular body as it hovers over mine. We move at a relaxed pace, his hand skimming over every curve of my body. When he positions himself between my legs, he holds his cock in his hand and runs the head of it up through my folds to my clit and slowly back down, saying, "I'm going to make your heart beat," as he pushes himself inside of me, filling me entirely as my eyes fall shut. He fucks me with slow, deepening strokes. There's no friction, no tension. It's just the two of us moving in this tender rhythm. "Open your eyes. Connect with me." I do, and he never takes his focus away from me. He's never felt so real as he does right now, in this very moment. The collusion on my part festers guilt inside of me, but it shouldn't. I shouldn't be this live wire that I am right now, gripping onto the broad knots of muscle that run along his arms. I shouldn't be feeling the pleasure that he's slowly building to fruition inside of me. I shouldn't be allowing him to do this to me, allowing me to do this to myself. It's too ripe, too much life. I'm getting lost between reality and fantasy, and I need to pull back. I didn't think Declan would be able to drive me so high like he's doing, moving as slowly as he is, so I close my eyes in a weak attempt to fight it away, to fight away the foreign emotions that are brewing inside. "You will not feel. You will not feel. You will not feel." "Oh, God," I moan without any filter of control. "Let yourself go with me," he urges when he takes my hand in his, lacing his fingers with mine as I begin to tremble into a shattering explosion of colorless light. Clinging my free arm around him, he never lets go of my hand, holding him tightly against me. My body writhes and bows up into his as I ride out the wave of ecstasy, coming hard around his cock. When I look up at him, I see the grimace in his face as he continues to move inside of me and then pulls out. "What are you doing?" I ask, knowing he didn't come. He lies on top of me, bracing himself on his elbows with his face over mine. "Why?" I breathe out on an uneven whisper. "Because that was for you." "Don't let yourself feel. Don't let yourself feel." My cycle of words slowly dies inside of my tightening chest. The thickness of my throat makes it hard and painful to breathe, and I know he sees it when he gently squeezes my hand that he's still holding and says, "Don't hide. If you need to cry, it's okay." Immediately, with his words, the liquid heat fills my eyes, blurring my vision of his face into a prismatic swirling of watercolors before they finally spill out and run down the sides of my face. He rolls us to our sides, never letting go of my hand, as I quietly weep into the warmth of his skin.
We stay in bed for most of the morning. Declan cooks us a late breakfast while I take a shower and get ready. The smell of eggs is in the air when I walk into the living area and over to Declan, who's standing over the stove. "Smells good," I say as I slide up next to him and watch as he folds the egg of the omelet over a mixture of tomatoes and spinach.
"You hungry?"
"Starved," I answer before he leans down to give me a kiss filled with eagerness, as his tongue invades my mouth. He doesn't stop fucking my mouth with his until the scent of burning egg wafts through the air.
"Fuck,"
he says, pulling the pan off the stove and onto the unlit burner, making me laugh as I move over and start opening and closing cabinets.
"What are you looking for?"
"A mug." He walks over, opening the door to one of the cabinets and pulls down a mug for me, saying,
"There's coffee in the French press,"
as he nods to the glass carafe on the counter. "Thanks, but I prefer tea in the mornings." He smiles and then gets the kettle on for me. While I wait for it to boil, I spot my purse lying on the foyer table, and when I pull my cell out, I have 2 missed calls from Bennett. When I look at the time, I count the hours and realize that it's a little after 8 in the evening for him. It's not like me to miss his calls, but with this new turn of events, my mind has been elsewhere. Knowing I have to call him and check in, I walk back over to the kitchen with my cell in my hand. "I need to make a call. Would you mind if I stepped out?" I ask gently, careful not to rock the boat too much. But he doesn't give it a second thought when he responds,
"Of course. My office is down that hall across the room,"
as he points in the opposite direction of where his bedroom is. "Thanks. I won't be too long." Walking into his office, it's nearly as large as his massive bedroom, with rich wooden bookshelves that line the back wall and up to the ceiling. His desk sits in the middle of the room, a dignified piece of mahogany, accented by a large leather chair with antique brass nail-head trim. I don't sit at his desk, perching instead on the tufted black leather Chesterfield sofa that sits over by the bookshelves. I take in the musk of rich leather and look around. Everything in this room is covered in Declan's masculinity. I quickly swipe the screen of my phone and call Bennett. He picks up immediately, saying,
"Honey, I've been worried."
"I'm so sorry, my phone was on silent and in my purse."
"What have you been doing all morning?"
"Writing. I've been working on that article," I lie. "Seems I'm not a natural. I've been cooped up in the office and lost track of time. I'm sorry I missed your call and made you worry."
"I don't want you to apologize. It's fine. I just miss you, that's all,"
he says sweetly, not even questioning my deceit. Knowing how fooled I have both of these men makes me smile, and I play into the good feelings, returning the sweetness. "I miss you too. Tell me about your day."
"I had to fire a couple men on the project. It's been stressful."
"What happened?"
"Deadlines weren't being met by the contractor, oversights to code specifications, and other issues I'd rather not discuss right now,"
he explains, the note of frustration and exhaustion evident in his voice. "I wish I was there. I'm sorry you had such a rough day. Is there anything I can do on my end to help you with anything?"
"Just tell me how much you love me."
"Bennett," I say, leaving his name lingering between us.
"What, honey?"
he murmurs softly. "I miss you, and I love you so much. I hate it when you're not here, when I don't have you next to me. I trail off when I realize Declan is standing in the double-door entry to the room. His scowl is murderous as he glares at me from across the room, causing my spine to straighten as I sit up. He's irate, there's no doubt, but I'm playing my ace at this point. To one man, I'm his loving and devoted wife, and to the other, I'm an abused woman who's trapped in a marriage to a terribly violent and powerful man. Bennett pulls me back to him when he picks up my lost words and questions,
"It's what, honey?"
With my eyes on Declan, I answer my husband. "It's lonely," and my words aren't taken well by Declan as I watch his jaw grind and then set.
"I feel it too,"
he responds as I drop my head to avoid Declan's scowl. Needing to end the call before Declan loses his shit on me, I say, "Honey, can we talk later?"
Yeah, no problem. I'm actually in the car with Baldwin. We are meeting the project manager and one of his architects for dinner.
Okay, well, I hope you have a good evening. I'll call you later tonight before I go to bed.
I love you.
With my head still down, I return his words. I love you too, Bennett. When I hang up, I slowly raise my eyes to see Declan walking towards me. He stands in front of me as I look up at him, but he doesn't sit. He just exudes his authority while staring down at me, jaw still locked.
Don't talk,
he snaps, cutting me off, but I don't take his order when I state softly, he's still my husband.
And those words you said to him?
They're just words, I whisper in a mock cowardly tone.
You miss him?
He asks, keeping his words clipped and tight. No.
You love him?
No.
Are you lonely?
No, I tell him firmly. His tension looms as he stands here, unmoving as time passes in silence. He eventually breaks it when his rough voice admits,
I want to punish you for calling that dickfuck in my home, but...
His voice trails as he closes his eyes and puffs out a hard breath through his nose, his lips pressed firmly together. I give him a moment, and then he slowly shakes his head as he drops down to his knees in front of me. His hands grip my hips, and his head falls to my knees before he looks up, but he isn't looking into my eyes. He's looking at my bruises. I open my mouth to speak at the same time he does, but I let him go first.
You have no idea how hard it is for me to keep my shit under control, knowing what's going on. And then finding you in here, talking to him. I want to throw my fist into the fucking wall.
He takes his hand and cups the side of my tender face.
But then I look at this,
he says, referring to the bruises,
and I'm afraid I'll scare you.
I don't scare that easily, I breathe.
I think you lie about that. I think you want me to believe that. Maybe even you want to believe that, but it's all a lie. It's you, trying to convince yourself.
I take a hard swallow, nervous, that even through all my shit, he seems to read me pretty damn well. As much as I want to deny what he's saying, if you cut me deep enough, I believe there's truth to how he sees me. I hate that about him.
I want you,
he states matter-of-factly, and I nod.
I can't refute my feelings, even though a part of me wants to, because I know I can't have you. But I want you. I want to have you. I want you mine. I want to own you.
Closing my eyes, I rest my forehead against his as my body slacks forward. Declan holds me, adding,
I want all of you, and it fucking hurts to know I can't have that, but I don't want to stay away from you either.
I don't know what to do because...
What, baby?
I draw my head back slightly to look at him when I explain. There's a reason we got married so quickly. I didn't see it at the time, but shortly after we were married, I saw his obsession with me. I urge on the emotion when I feel the constricting of my throat. My words strain as I say, he'll never let me go. And if he knew about you, he'd ruin you. He's powerful enough to do that.
Let him ruin me.
But it's me, I tell him unshaky words. He peers his worried eyes into me, and I choke back a faint whimper when he asks,
What are you afraid of?
I take a pause before finally speaking the words that bring a flare of protectiveness to his eyes. He'll kill me. Chapter 26. Present. Declan was beyond furious about me coming back home yesterday. I've spent the better part of the last 2 weeks staying at his place, only coming home a couple of times when I knew Clara would be here. I made my case to him, though, making it clear that it has to be this way, and that Bennett could never know about us. Spending as much time together as we have been, I see Declan falling hard for me. He's honest about how he feels about me and us, and makes no apologies about it. For a man who exercises his power and authority, not only with me but with nearly everyone I see him come in contact with, he masks a vulnerability that I can see him trying to hide. The bruises on my face were pretty much non-existent when Bennett arrived home this morning. We spent hours in bed together, making up for the 2 weeks he was away. He wasn't happy when I had to leave to drop off my article that I was able to finish on the days Declan went to work, leaving me with nothing but time while I hid out at his place. It's not like I could really go out with my face looking as bad as it did. But Bennett understood, and even suggested that I take a little time for myself since he was starting to feel the jet lag of the 9-hour time difference from Dubai. While Bennett's at home, Baldwin takes me over to North Michigan Avenue, where I spend most of the day strolling in and out of the various stores, doing some much-needed shopping. I stop by Neiman's to pick out a few dress shirts for Bennett and a couple of ties. Before calling Baldwin to return with the car, I decide to make one last stop. Bearing the single-digit temperatures outside, I loop my scarf a couple of times around my neck and head down to La Perla. I learned while staying with Declan that he has an affinity for lingerie. Since I need to continue to draw him in deeper, I'll do whatever I can. When I walk in, my stomach instantly rumbles. Being in stores like this makes me feel dirty and gross. Always has. I know I have a fucked up sense of sexuality. I'm not blind to the effects my childhood has on me. Just thinking about adorning a body that I find repulsive, a body that has no value to me, disgusts me. But this isn't for me or for my liking. It's for Declan's. Browsing through the insanely expensive selection of silks and laces, I pick out a few silk culottes that are embellished with hand-embroidered lace. For as kinky as Declan is in the bedroom, he prefers when I wear things delicate and feminine, so I'm sure he'll like these French knickers. I add a few pairs of lace panties and bras before a saleslady approaches, offering, "Would you like for me to start you a fitting room?" "No, I'd like to go ahead and purchase these," I tell her, feeling like I need to get out of here before my mounting nausea suffocates me. After I make my purchases and shove the ivory bag down into my larger Neiman's one, I text Baldwin for the car and tell him to meet me at the Starbucks that's down the street. The last thing I need is for him to know I was buying lingerie. Baldwin is noticeably quiet as he drives the few minutes it takes to get back home. When I get off the elevator, I'm surprised to see Jacqueline with her baby on her hip walking through my living room. "Jacqueline, what a pleasant surprise," I greet as she approaches me with Bennett striding along behind her. "Well, Richard would rather sleep and let me take care of his business than doing it himself," she says, and when Bennett kisses my cheek and takes the shopping bags from my hands, he explains, "I needed to sign off on a few files Richard had that need to be faxed off ASAP. "I see," I mumble, and then turn to Jacqueline and her son. "He's growing fast." "I know, it's amazing, isn't it?" "I suppose," I respond, not caring to discuss the charms of motherhood. "Well, I better get going. Richard is going to be hungry when he wakes, so—" That guy is such a lazy bastard. Always has been. He treats Jacqueline more as a servant to his needs than a wife. Pitiful woman puts up with it too, but that's her choice. "It's a shame you can't stay longer. I've been so tied up lately, but we should see about a lunch date," I say, pretending I truly care about our plastic friendship. "That sounds great. I'll call you," she replies, and then looks to Bennett, saying, "I'm sorry Richard couldn't come himself." "No worries, Jacqueline. We will see you later," he says, as he walks her to the door to see her out. They exchange goodbyes, and then Bennett is back to me, taking me in his arms. "Did you have a good time shopping?" "I did. Have you been working this whole time?" "No, she just stopped by a few minutes ago," he tells me. "I took a short nap and unpacked." "You? Unpacked?" I tease. "I'm impressed." "So little faith in me," he responds with laughter and then dips his head to kiss me. "By the way, Cal made a call to my office while I was gone. Seems he heard about the refitting in Dubai and is curious about investment options." "Oh," I remark. wondering if Declan knows his father is interested in investing with Bennett's company.
He wants a meeting, but isn't able to get out of New York because of his tight schedule, so I'm going to fly out there for a few days. I want you to come with me.
Of course. When would that be?
In a couple of weeks. I have to run back down to Miami for a few days beforehand.
Miami? I question, letting him see my frustration. I didn't see that on your schedule.
The realtor called while you were shopping. We finally came to negotiations on the property sale.
Finally? Bennett has a number of properties, a beachfront in Miami being one of them. He's had it for years, but since I've known him, he's never used it. Although he travels there for business, he stays in hotels since the house is out of the way.
So, New York?
Smiling, I respond, sounds perfect. Hopefully it's not all business. I'd like to be able to have some time with just you.
I'll make sure of it. But for now, I've made reservations for dinner tonight.
I better go get cleaned up then. I think I'll go soak in a hot bath for a while.
Want company?
He asks in a smooth tone, and I nod before kissing his jaw. We spend the rest of the day together, and after an extravagant meal, we head home, and it isn't long before Bennett crashes from not only the rich food, but the time change as well. I lie there in bed next to him and simply stare. I faintly remember him as a child. His face is clear to me only because I've seen plenty of his childhood pictures at his parents' house. He sleeps peacefully, as I recall playing with him in my backyard. I don't remember much, but he used to push me on my swing set. I would tell him to push me higher, push me into the clouds, and he would give me a giant push and then run under the swing as I went up. One time he didn't make it, and I came crashing down on him. He said it didn't hurt him, but I could tell that it did. We were never good friends, just neighbors who would sometimes play together if we were both outside at the same time. He was older and already in elementary school. Soon after I started kindergarten, I was taken away and never saw him again. That was until Pike found him several years ago. When I saw him again, he had just turned 30. Nothing about him looked the same to me, not until his mother showed me some old photo albums. That's when I started remembering more of our time together as young kids. And now I lie here, thinking about the part he played in the nightmare that became my life, and the hate begins to fester. I want to kill him, but more than that, I want to make him suffer. I want to yell and scream, tell him who I really am, tell him how he ruined my life, and how because of him, my father is now dead. I want him to know the destruction he caused for opening his foolish mouth. It takes a lot of effort not to clench my fist right now and beat the living fuck out of his face. Suddenly, a muted glow casts along the ceiling, and I turn my head to see there's a notification on my cell phone. Rolling over, I look to see Declan has sent me a text. I grab the phone and quietly slip out of bed to make my way to the other side of the apartment and into the office before reading his text. Miss you. I sit down at the desk and type back. Same here. Are you okay? I can't stop worrying about you. I fucking hate it. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me. Don't ever tell me not to worry. When I notice it's after 2 a.m, I respond, Why are you up so late? I told you. I can't stop thinking about you and if you're okay. I got used to having you in my bed, and now all I can picture is you lying next to him. I don't know what to say. What do you want me to say? That you feel what I feel. I do. Tell me. I blank you. What does that mean? There's not a single word I can think of that could properly describe how I feel about you. But I feel it, and it's powerful. So you blank me, huh? Yeah. I blank you too. I want to see you tomorrow. Okay, I can get away during the day. Come to 31st Street Harbor, Dock K, Slip 47. You have a boat? Yes. What time can you be there? 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Don't be late. I shake my head at his need for control and grin as I message him back. Trust me, I won't. My ass and pussy are both still mad at you.
Ass maybe, but there is no way your pussy could still be mad with the number of orgasms I have given it since.
You think so?
I know so. I'm getting hard just thinking about your divine pussy wrapped snug around my cock.
His crass words come as no surprise to me. Declan has a filthy mouth that he's let loose a few times. He's so blunt and honest in bed, never feeling the need to be modest with his words in any fashion.
I'm serious. I have to control my thoughts because as soon as I think about you, I get rock hard.
I'll be sure to take extra special care of you tomorrow. I can't have you walking around like that. The women already stare at you as it is, fantasizing about riding that cock.
Nobody is riding this but you.
I laugh and give him a taste of his possessive words and type my response. My cock.
Fuck, you're killing me. I'm going to bury it so deep inside of you tomorrow.
I'm not going to want to let you go. I already miss you terribly.
Love that, my girl.
Your girl. It takes him a while to respond as I sit here in the darkened room until he finally sends his next text.
Did you fuck him today?
Declan, you can't ask me that.
Make sure you're clean and don't fuck him before you come see me tomorrow.
His request makes his jealousy crystal clear. I'll tell him whatever makes him feel better, but I won't stop fucking Bennett. I have to keep my charade up with him, too. Please don't treat me like that.
I'm serious. I'll lose my shit if I smell him on you.
You won't. Now stop being a dick and be nice to me.
Getting feisty?
I shake my head with a smile. Always feisty.
I know. We need to work on that.
I'm not subservient.
You could be.
Now you're just trying to get a rise out of me. I get your little game, McKinnon. Push me till I defy you so that you can get your jollies by teaching me a lesson.
You've got me all figured out, don't you?
Does that bother you? That I can read you?
No, I love that you can read me. Now I just have to figure out how to read you.
Maybe I like being a mystery.
I think we both know that I can see past your walls pretty well. Hide all you want, darling, but I'll always find you.
You think so?
I know so. When I want something, I do what it takes to get it.
So, McKinnon, tell me, what is it that you want?
You. You already know that. But I like that you asked me anyway, just so you could get the affirmation you were apparently seeking, which tells me all I need to know.
And what's that?
That you want me to.
Possibly.
Don't be coy. You don't need to play that game with me because you already have my full interest. I get that you're scared, but you don't need to be with me.
You sure about that?
There's no doubt. What about you?
I take a moment and think about how I want to respond to his question. I don't want to be too blunt and just say yes. I'm afraid.
Of what?
Afraid that you'll hurt me.
Never.
Don't say never because you're very capable.
If you're afraid, I'll hold you.
And what if I freak out?
I'll hold you tighter.
It's now that I realize I have a huge smile splayed across my face that's been there for most of this conversation. Regardless of the truth as to what's going on, Declan is fun to talk to. He always has been. Despite the evil I'm playing and the lies I've told him, I feel like I have a friend. I'm playing him just as I am with Bennett. But I despise Bennett, whereas Declan was never a person I had any disparaging feelings towards. The only fault is that he's the unlucky bastard that fell for me. You better have a good grip.
No one will ever hold you tighter.
I could stay up all night talking to you, but I have a date tomorrow morning that I cannot be late for.
Why's that?
This time, I opt for sweet words over the flirty, tart ones I typically use with him. He tends to worry about me when I run late. He gets upset. But I really like this guy, so I want to be sure that I'm rested and on time so that he knows I care about him enough to not cause him worry.
I adore you.
I blank you.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Night.
Night, darling.
When I make my way back into the bedroom, Bennett is still in the same position, sound asleep. It only takes a second for my ill feelings to return, so when I slip into bed, I roll to the side so I don't have to look at him. And with my thoughts returning to the conversation I just had with Declan, I quickly ease myself to sleep. Chapter 27. Present.
Did you have any trouble finding it?
Declan asks as I step aboard his luxury performance yacht. Dock K, slip 47, just where you said she'd be, I say with a shiver as the biting wind gusts off the water.
Let's go inside.
I follow Declan into the saloon that's fitted with a white linen sofa and chairs that surround a large wooden table.
Quick tour,
he suggests as he takes my hand, and I give him an agreeing smile as he leads me through the galley and down the stairs. After showing me the starboard cabin and ensuite, along with the guest cabin and bathroom, he leads me down to the owner's stateroom and master ensuite. The room is sleek with rich cherry wood, a small seating area to the side, and a large bed in the center. Declan doesn't waste a second when he turns me in his arms and kisses me. Relaxing into the kiss, I let him move me to his liking, and when he finally pulls his tongue out of my mouth, I grin.
What's so funny?
With jest, I say, "No conversation?" Running his hands possessively down my neck and over my tits, he squeezes them in his hands before responding,
"We'll talk after I've had my cock inside you."
He then grabs my hips, lifts me up, and tosses me on the bed. He climbs on top of me and between my legs with a breathy groan as I grab his face and kiss him again. Our lips crash, and we're a blur of quick-moving hands, fumbling off each other's clothes. When he slips my shift dress over my head, tossing it aside, I know my shopping trip was worth it when his eyes flare as he takes in my French knickers and matching bra. With both of us up on our knees, he pauses as his eyes roam over me, taking me in. It's awkward to have a man look at me the way Declan does, with intense want and desire.
"Do you have any idea how beautiful you are?"
he says softly, taking his hands and slowly running them down my ribs and stopping on my hips where he gently tugs the silk of my panties. "Stop," I whisper, wanting to deny his words.
"Stop what?"
"When you say things like that," I start, dropping my head to break the intense eye contact. "It makes me uncomfortable." I look back up into his eyes, adding, "I don't know how to respond."
"I don't need any response, darling. But you shouldn't be uncomfortable, not with me. I love looking at you. I love the way you look naked, your flawless, milky skin,"
he says as he starts to slowly move his hands over me.
"Your perfect tits,"
he continues, unclasping my bra and slipping it down my arms.
"Your pink nipples. It fucking makes me so hard when I see them tighten up just for me."
And then he covers my one bud with his mouth, sucking it in and swirling his tongue around before moving to my other breast to do the same. I run my fingers through his silky hair, and he lays me back. He begins to lightly trail the tips of his fingers down, over the swell of my breasts, and along the very sensitive skin of my abdomen, sending a shiver up my body.
"And then there's this,"
he says, smooth and low, as he hooks his fingers under the waist of my panties and slips them off.
"Open your legs for me."
I do, spreading them apart and exposing my bare pussy to him. As he watches me, he releases a guttural moan. He sits between my legs, and with his hands on my knees, taking in the sight of me, he says,
"Touch yourself."
Wetting my finger in my mouth, I keep my eyes on him as I reach down and slip it between my lips, dragging my slick arousal up to my clit, and begin rubbing in slow circles. I watch as Declan's eyes dilate in molten black lust. He shifts to remove his bottoms and then moves back between my bent knees before he takes himself in his hand and begins pumping his thick cock over me. The sight alone causes me to grow even wetter, which surprises me. I've always struggled in the past, but with Declan it's different. My body always responds to him, even when I try to fight it.
"Dip your finger inside and give me a taste,"
he demands, and I do, sinking my finger inside the heat of my pussy and then reaching up to offer it to him. He grabs a hold of my wrist and lowers his head, sucking my finger into his mouth.
"Fuck, I need you."
He leans over and grabs his discarded necktie.
"Do you trust me?"
he asks as he looks down at me, and I give him a nod. I'm used to Declan's need to restrain and control me. There's only been that one time we had sex when I asked him not to that he didn't, but that's been the only time.
"Say it."
"I trust you, Declan," I tell him as he wraps the tie around my head, covering my eyes in a makeshift blindfold.
"Lift your head,"
he whispers, and then knots it in place, leaving me in darkness. It's now that I feel my heart begin to race. After spending most of my childhood locked in a darkened closet, I have been claustrophobic. I hear movement and feel Declan getting off the bed, only to return a few seconds later.
"I'm going to tie you up, okay?"
he says, and I can feel the heat of his body above me as I lie here. He takes my hands and holds them together as I feel a prickly, coarse rope being looped around my wrists. As he continues to secure my wrists and tie me to the headboard, he tells me,
"This is a natural fiber rope. It's all I have. So if you fight the restraint, you'll hurt yourself. Understand?"
"Yes," I respond, and when he's done, I try adjusting my wrists, only to have the coarse fibers poke into my skin.
"I'll be right back,"
he says, and then the bed shifts, followed by the click of the door closing. He's gone, and the darkness begins to consume me. The only noise I can hear is the lapping of the water against the boat. My wrists begin to rub against the brittle rope as I shift around. My breathing picks up, but soon becomes labored with my increasing heartbeat. Suddenly, I feel the room caving in on me, swallowing me up as the air grows thick. I plant my feet flat on the bed. I can't seem to sit still anymore. And then I smell it. That familiar smell of Carl's cigarettes. "Declan?" I murmur, but all I hear now is the muffled TV on the other side of the closet door. Confusion begins to swarm, and my head grows unbearably turbulent with the increasing smell of cigarettes. Fear and confusion take over when I realize I'm naked. Carl has never locked me up naked before, and I begin jerking my hands, trying to break free. My entire body goes numb and tingly as I start thrashing around, desperate to find light and escape. Nothing feels real as my head floats, and I hear the echoes of screaming. The pressure of the walls caving in on me is so heavy, collapsing on my chest. I struggle to breathe, yanking and jerking, doing everything I can in my sheer panic to get loose. Someone grabs my hands, and light filters in. Opening my eyes, I realize the pressure on my chest is a man, and the screams are coming from me. Tugging my arms violently to get away, I shriek, "Let me go!"
"Hold still, Nina. Calm down."
Who the fuck is Nina, and who is this guy? Where am I? Where's Carl? "Get off me!" I wail through my burning screams. As soon as my arms are free, I bolt, leaping quickly off the bed only to be tackled down.
"Nina, breathe,"
the man shouts as he pins me in his grip. I struggle to fight my way off of his lap, but he keeps his firm hold on me from behind. "Let go!"
"Breathe, baby. Please, just breathe."
He holds me tight as he continues to talk, slowly bringing me back into my body. The fog in my head filters out, and I begin to remember where I am. Finding my way out of the tunnel I felt I was just in, reality appears, and I realize I must have been hallucinating. The pounding of my heart shakes me, and when I look down, I'm covered in blood, sparking another spike of panic. "Oh my God!" My trembling voice is barely audible.
"It's okay, baby. You're okay,"
Declan soothes. "There's blood."
"Shh, baby. It's okay," he whispers. "Just breathe with me."
I slack into his arms, my back snug against his front, and focus on the rise and fall of his chest as I try to parallel my breathing with his. After a few moments, he lays me down as he sits over me. I lie here, embarrassed about what just happened and the fact that Declan saw it. He reaches over to pull a blanket up, covering my exposed body. His eyes are heavy with worry as he looks over me. He takes my wrists in his hands, and that's when I notice the source of all the blood.
"We should clean you up."
His words come out gentle.
"There's a first aid kit in the bathroom,"
he tells me, and when I nod, he gets up to retrieve it. I sit up, leaning my back against the headboard, wondering what the hell just happened. I used to have panic attacks like that back when I was a teenager, after I had to run away. But that was so long ago. I feel numb, like I'm in a daze. Declan will surely question me about this, but I'm too disoriented to even stress about it. He returns, sitting in front of me, and starts cleaning the blood from my hands and arms with a warm towel.
"Does it hurt?"
he asks, and I keep my focus on his hands as they tend to my abrasions. I give a shake of my head, not wanting to speak right now, as he continues to clean and then bandage the cuts with a little gauze. Once he's done, he sets everything aside and moves to sit next to me, cradling me against his chest. He holds me for a few minutes before asking,
"What happened?"
"I'm sorry."
"Fuck, I'm the one who needs to be apologizing, not you. I should never have left you alone like that."
"Where did you go?" I ask.
"To lock the door out to the cockpit,"
he tells me, and then draws back to look down at me, running his hand through my hair, combing it back.
"Tell me why you panicked."
Taking a deep breath, I decide to just be honest with him aside from a few details. I'm claustrophobic. I guess with the blindfold and not being able to move, I felt like I was suffocating.
"You looked at me as if you didn't know who I was, though."
I close my eyes and sink back into his chest. I don't know, I felt like I was hallucinating. He kisses the top of my head, and when I look up at him, he plants another kiss on my forehead. The scruff on his face pricks my skin, and for a split second, it feels like my father. I close my eyes again, overwhelmed with the emotions that keep stacking up on me, and freely reveal, "Your stubble reminds me of my dad." He cuddles me up tighter as words start to fall from my lips without much thought as I tell him, "He used to always kiss my forehead the same way you do." A few moments pass before I add, "I like that you do that."
"Were the two of you close?"
The tightening of my throat makes it hurt to speak when I simply breathe out a trembling, "Yeah." I choke back the tears that threaten as he rests his cheek on the top of my head. Time is idle between us, and when I feel the wave of sadness creep away, I finally ask Declan, "Why do you do it?"
"Do what?"
"Tie me up. Have you always done that to women?" He moves his head from mine when I look up to see his face. He gives a nod and then turns his eyes to me. "Why?"
"Control."
"Will you talk to me about it?" I quietly ask, and his vulnerable words take me back when he admits,
"I've never talked to anyone about it before."
"Why not?"
"Because it's painful."
And I can see it written in the lines of his face. I run my hand along his jaw, urging him to look at me when I ask, "Do you think you could tell me? Help me understand you better?" The green in his eyes is bright, brighter than usual, a sign of the unshed tears that threaten him.
"Come closer to me,"
he says, and I do, nuzzling my head in the dip in the center of his chest. I listen to his heartbeat for a few seconds before he starts to speak.
"My father used to travel a lot when I was younger. He always made sure I knew I was the man of the house, and that it was my job as a man to take care of my mum. I always did. When I was 15, my dad had come here to the States on business. My mother was in the den, reading, while I was watching a movie in my parents' room. The door was open, so I was able to see her, curled up in my father's old leather chair he liked so much. She would always complain about how hideous it looked, but when he'd leave, it's where she would always sit and read. She loved it, but for some reason got a kick out of nagging my father about it.
I laugh under my breath and murmur, "Funny."
"She was," he responds. "She had so much life in her, and never let the stresses get her down."
He takes a pause, and I can feel the muscles in his arms flex around me before he continues.
"That night, I had fallen asleep on their bed when I heard a loud commotion that woke me up. My mother's screams were terrifying, and when I lifted my head to look out into the den, I saw a man with a gun pointed to her head."
That was the last thing I ever expected him to say, and when I look up, his jaw grinds down. Declan lowers his head to look at me, and I see the shame in his eyes as he says,
"I was a coward."
Shaking my head, I ask, "Why?"
"Because when I saw that gun, I crawled and hid under the bed."
"Declan!"
I could still see them, though. My mum was crying and begging for her life while I did nothing to protect her. I didn't even try to help her,"
he reveals as tears rim his eyes.
"I just laid there like a pussy, too scared to move, and watched as that man pulled the trigger and shot my mother in the head."
Jesus. Declan's face is tight as he tries to keep his pain under control, but the glimmer of a tear finds its way down his face. I reach up and run my thumb along the wet trail as he watches me, and then out of nowhere, I feel the heat of my own tear as it falls. I realize in that moment that we share a similar pain. Both of our parents were murdered, taken away from us, and we never had a choice in the matter. "I'm so sorry," my heart whispers, because I genuinely feel his ache.
"That was my mum,"
his voice cracks.
"And I did nothing."
"You were just a kid." He shakes his head, unwilling to accept that as an excuse, and I know enough to realize that no one would be able to convince him otherwise, so I don't try.
"My father blames me for her death. He always has."
"That's ridiculous."
"Is it?"
"Yes," I state firmly. "What if you had run to protect her and you were the one who got shot? Your mother would have suffered, mourning the loss of her only child. It's a morbid thought, I know, but which would you prefer? A life of mourning or a quick death?" He cradles my face in his hands, and I see his throat flex as he takes a hard swallow before he finally speaks, his voice holding only notes of seriousness.
"I need control. I need to know that I hold the power so that nothing happens without my say. And with you, I've never felt like I needed that control more."
I slip my hands over his as they remain on my face. Things are going to happen, Declan. That's the shit part of life, that we don't get a say in anything. The reality of these words prick at my heart, knowing the ugly truth all too well. The world will never ask us what we want. It doesn't care what we want. Bad things are going to happen, but it'll never stop this world from spinning. And what happened to your mother? That had nothing to do with you.
"I can rationalize that, but it feels like a lie,"
he tells me. "And what about your dad?"
"He reminds me every chance he gets that I'll never be enough, that I failed as a man. So I've spent my whole life busting my ass to prove him wrong. But you were right."
"About what?"
"What you said at the hotel that night, that I hate the name that owns me. You're right. The fact that I fell right into my father's business and didn't create my own success. It's just another piece of arson for him to use on me."
"But Lotus is all yours. Your father doesn't have a hand in it," I remind him.
"He doesn't need his hand in it to own entitlement. It shares the McKinnon name."
"I need to tell you something," I say, wanting him to be privy to the information I just found out about his dad. "Your father is looking to possibly invest with my husband's company. Bennett is going to New York to meet with him, and I'm going too."
"When?"
"Later next week." I can tell that he's pissed with the idea of mixing business with Bennett, and understandably so. He pulls me into his arms, tucking my head under his chin as he sits back, and lets go of a heavy sigh.
"I want you far away from that man,"
he grits. I know, but I also know him and what he's capable of. His arms are tense around me as I nestle my head against his hard chest.
It fucking kills me to sit at home and wonder if he's laying a hand on you. Do you have any idea what that does to me? I feel like a worthless bastard for sending you back to him.
Don't. You're not. He takes my hand and pulls it up to his lips and kisses the bandage around my wrist before looking at me, saying,
I'm a bastard for this.
I should have told you when you blindfolded me that I was feeling panicky.
I need you to always be honest with me, especially during sex. It worries me that I could be hurting you.
When I nod my head, he leans down and gives me a tender kiss, sucking gently on my bottom lip before pulling away. He keeps his head close, nose against mine, and with my eyes still closed, he breathes in a low rasp.
I love you.
The tremolo of my heart excites me, to know that he's feeling this way, but it also hurts, because he's become someone I like. I hate that I'm about to destroy this person for my own benefit, but it needs to be done. I almost feel guilty knowing that he's having these feelings for me that I don't share, but that's part of the game. That's part of revenge. I've never felt bad for Bennett, but Declan is a good guy. It's a shame that I have to do this to him, but I do. I open my eyes and look into his, running my fingers behind his neck and up into his hair, giving the sentiment in return, only mine is laced in candied poison when I say, I love you too. Chapter 28. Present. The abrasions on my wrists healed quickly. Luckily, Bennett had left for Miami the morning after my freakout, so I was able to hide my wrists from him for that one night by simply wearing one of his long-sleeved t-shirts and telling him that I was feeling sick. We always have sex before he goes out of town, but because he thought I wasn't feeling well, I was able to keep the scabs hidden from him as we just cuddled together in bed. I spent the few days he was gone with Declan. He continues to grow closer to me, opening up more and telling me about what it was like for him to grow up after his mother had died. His father treated him like a piece of shit, always belittling him, giving him a sense of worthlessness that he now overcompensates for in his aggressions. I've met Cal on several occasions and have always thought him bastardly. But with everything Declan has told me, it makes my stomach turn knowing that I have to put on my good graces while in his company tonight. We arrived in New York 2 days ago, and even though Bennett has had a couple meetings with him, I haven't been present. Tonight, Cal has invited us to his home for dinner, so while Bennett was in meetings today, I spent my time shopping for a new dress to wear this evening. Nothing fancy, just a feminine navy shift dress with a lace overlay that I have paired with nude pumps. Bennett looks his usual, wearing a tailored suit and tie, and when the door opens, a woman who can't be much older than me greets us. "Welcome," she says warmly, looking polished in her ivory slacks and purple silk top, the color making me cringe. Her raven hair is pulled back into a bun at the nape of her neck. "You must be Bennett and Nina. Thank you for joining us for dinner. Cal speaks highly of the both of you. I'm Camilla, by the way." Bennett shakes her hand and greets her with a kiss on the cheek before she extends her hand to me, which I take in a polite shake as we exchange pleasantries. "This is a lovely home, Camilla," I remark as we step into the foyer. "Thank you. We just finished a remodel. For the past few months we've been living in a construction site," she says in playful displeasure. I snicker at her mock exasperation, and she turns to me with a smile and adds, "You have no idea how many filthy ass cracks I had to look at during the process." We both laugh at her crass words as she leads us through the impressive house. "Cal, the Vanderwalls are here," she announces as we walk into a large home office, which looks to double as a library as well. But I immediately stumble when I see Declan standing next to his father in front of the large wood-burning fireplace.
"Bennett?"
Cal calls out as he walks over to us, but my eyes remain locked on Declan. What the fuck is he doing here? My neck heats in anxiety, almost instantly, as I stand arm in arm with my husband. Declan's eyes are dark as he looks at me with Bennett, and I give him the best "what the hell are you doing here" look I can muster without drawing attention to myself.
"Nina,"
Cal greets, snapping me out of my nonverbal exchange with his son. And when I turn my attention to the silver-haired man, I smile. "Mr. McKinnon, it's so good to see you again. It's been far too long."
"Enough formalities. Call me Cal and do an old man a favor,"
he says, opening his arms to me for an embrace. As I give him a hug, I look over his shoulder to Declan, who is taking a long sip out of his brandy glass. When Cal draws back with a pleased grin, he looks to Bennett, saying,
"You're one lucky man."
"I couldn't agree with you more," Bennett remarks.
"She's stunning."
My eyes turn to Declan as my husband speaks his doting words. His face has a hard set to it as he begins to walk over, and in a powerful tone, he speaks to Bennett with his eyes remaining on me.
"Entirely stunning. Yet somehow she married you."
I narrow my eyes at him before he looks to Bennett. His jealousy, if he doesn't get it under wraps, could ignite danger in this delicate situation, but Bennett takes it as manly banter and responds,
"Indeed. Maybe it was a moment of weakness when she said yes to my proposal, which is why we married within months. I couldn't risk losing her when she finally came to her senses."
As awkward as it is, I have to keep the jig up as his wife, so I turn to him, laughing in false amusement, giving him a taste of the sass he enjoys so much. "Please, I had already figured you for another helpless man in need of a woman's influence before we ever said our I do's."
"And yet you still married me,"
he laughs.
"Smart woman,"
Cal boasts. "And why's that?" I ask slyly.
"Well,"
he starts as he steps towards Bennett, clapping his hand onto my husband's shoulder.
"most men only strive to be half of what he has become, and still they fail. I can only admire a man who works hard for everything he has. No handouts taken."
I note the underlying passive-aggressive statement. That he's implying Declan is of the latter. His remark irritates me, and the need to speak up and defend the guy I feel is becoming a friend of mine pangs at me. So I snap in haste, "If nobody took those handouts, Cal, then everything would simply be left to die. Is that what you want to see? The death of everything you've worked so hard for? Or rather, you could take pride in the person who gives a shit enough to step in and ensure your dream continues to thrive. Seems you've got your priorities a tad misappropriated, and you should start respecting those that don't follow in your macho do-for-yourself attitude." The look on Cal's face is of priceless shock that I would speak so bluntly to him. The two of us just look at each other when Bennett finally speaks.
"Honey."
"Don't," I snap, interrupting him. "Don't defend his way of thinking. It's sophomoric."
"You'll have to excuse her. She's a feisty one,"
he remarks, trying to lighten the tension I just created. When I look over to Declan, the air suddenly feels a little too thick to breathe.
"I can appreciate fire,"
Cal responds, giving me a wink, which irks me. "Camilla," I say, turning my attention to her while she stands stoically at Cal's side, keeping a tight lip this whole time. "Could you show me to the powder room?" After she gives me directions to the restroom, I excuse myself from the group for a much-needed breather. Closing the door behind me, I lean against it and drop my head. I'm not sure what I was thinking, making a fool out of myself back there for a guy that's nothing more than a con to me. He's more than a con, the voice inside my head tells me. But the fact is, no matter how I identify with Declan, he is, at the end of the day, a con that I'm working. The fact that I can relate to him on certain levels isn't ideal, but it doesn't change the bottom line either. I need to pull my shit together, be the loving wife right now, and deal with Declan later, preferably back in Chicago. The turning of the door handle against my back causes me to startle and jump away. "What the hell are you doing?" I seethe under my breath when Declan steps in, closing and locking the door behind him. Why are you even here? He completely ignores my questioning and starts on his own, asking, Why do you look at him like you do? What? We keep our voices to a minimal whisper, even though we are both hostile with inflection. The way you look at him, Nina. Don't fucking pretend with me. Declan, let me make this clear. He's my husband. He steps forward, caging me against the wall with his hands, eyes menacing. As he hisses through his Scottish brogue that's growing heavier the more irate he becomes. Don't feed me shit right now. Tell me, how can you look at him like you do? That cocksucker fucking hits you. Because if I treat him like shit, what the hell do you think is going to be my punishment? And in my moment of rage, I spit out my next words. I'll give you a hint. The same thing you do when you punish me. And the dreadful look of remorse that takes over his face makes me instantly regret saying that, for implying that Declan would be a man of such a vile nature. I'm sorry, I quickly recant, softening my tone. I didn't mean that. He covers my mouth with his hand, stopping my words, and I feel like shit for what I just inferred. He's never touched me out of hate. I know Declan honestly cares about me, and I care about him. So when guilt fills his eyes, I grab his wrist and pull his hand away, whispering, That was unjust. You're nothing like him. I know that. I was just caught up and angry. You're right. No, Declan, I'm wrong. You punish me out of love. It's not the same. I'm sorry, I implied it was, I tell him. You don't hurt me like he does. With him, it's nothing but fear. But with you, when I'm with you, it's the only time I ever truly feel safe. My mind is fucking with me here, especially when I see the way you look at him, when I see the way he touches you. Do you have any idea what that shit does to me when all I want is you? Taking his face in my hands, I affirm with fervor, I love you, Declan. You, not him. He's not a choice for me. You are. Say it again. I love you, I lie. Only you. This can't last forever, you know. Me on the side while I sit at home knowing you're fucking that piece of shit. I know. But right now, Declan, he's in the other room. We have to go back. We can talk about this back in Chicago. He leaves for Dubai in a couple days. His lips collide with mine, taking me in an instant, filling my mouth with his tongue. He's urgent and needy, hands on my tits, groping them firmly. I grip his shoulders when he presses his hips into me. You feel that? What you do to me? Yes, I breathe as he grinds his erection against me. Hike it up, he demands, and I quickly grab the hem of my dress, pulling it up as he swiftly undoes his pants. With his hands firmly on my ass, he hoists me up against the wall, reaches between us, and yanks my panties to the side before thrusting his cock urgently inside of me. So wet, baby. Always ready for me, he grunts, and the truth of his words hurts as I wonder why my body betrays me like it does for him. His overwhelming aura has my mind losing focus as he pounds into me, a beautifully brutal display of his love. With my arms tightly wrapped around his shoulders, I hang on, burying my head in the crook of his neck while he fucks me mercilessly against the wall. The small room is filled with our labored breaths and the familiar smell of our sex. This is Declan's arcane display of his primal need to mark me before sending me back to my husband. He's possessive and makes no apologies about it. Put your fingers in my mouth and then touch yourself, he instructs, and I do, pushing 2 of my fingers past his lips so he can wet them for me before I slip my hand between us and start rubbing my already slick bundle of nerves. Oh, God, I exhale. That's it. Make yourself cream all over my cock. Declan. Do it, he commands as he hungrily slams inside of me, hitting me just right that I fall into a suspended reality. My pussy pulses in waves of pleasure around his cock as I lose my breath in release. Fuck yeah, he growls as he shoots his hot cum inside of me, claiming me as his. He drops his head to my chest as he begins to slow, but still pumping small thrusts inside of me. I let my head fall back against the wall, and when he looks up at me, his request is clear when he says, "Give it to me." And I slip my fingers back into his mouth so he can taste my arousal. When he lowers me back down, holding on to me as I steady myself on my feet, his cum slowly seeps out of me, wetting my panties as I slip them back in place. We don't speak as we rush to pull ourselves together. I check myself in the mirror, swipe my fingers under my eyes, and then run them through my hair in an attempt to smooth it down. When Declan has his pants back on, he wraps his arms around me from behind and kisses me tenderly under my ear, moving his lips along the delicate skin, telling me, "I love you so fucking much." My heart is racing, not just from the abrupt sex, but also from the fear of knowing Bennett is in the other room. I turn in his arms, slightly out of breath, and soothe him the best that I can before I walk out of here and return to my husband. "I love you too. If I had my way, I'd hide away with you in here forever." He presses his lips into my neck, and then unlocks the door. "You go ahead. Give me a few minutes." I run my hand along his jaw, taking in the feel of his whiskers and giving him a soft smile before leaving. "There you are. I was about to come looking for you," Bennett says when I walk back to where I had left him. I walk over to where he sits on the couch and take a seat next to him. "I'm sorry. Just needed a moment." "Everything okay?" "Yes," I say, and then turn to Cal, who's sitting with Camilla on the adjacent couch. "I apologize for my uncouth outburst. I don't know what came over me."
"No need to apologize. You have a spicy bite to you. Nothing wrong with that," he says, and then nods to Camilla, adding, "You should hear this one when she gets a fire under her ass."
"Callum!" she squeals, slapping his knee as he starts to laugh. Bennett and I join the amusement in their exchange when Declan walks in. He quickly glances my way, scowling when he sees Bennett's arm wrapped around me as I'm cuddled up next to him.
"There you are, son. Where the hell have you been?" Cal questions in annoyance. "Had to take a call," he answers. "I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to call it a night here. Father, it was good seeing you," he says as he walks over to say his goodbyes to Cal and Camilla before turning in my direction. Bennett stands to shake Declan's hand, totally unaware that he was just inside of me. I stand, nervously, next to Bennett, and when the two are finished saying their quick and stale goodbye, Declan takes my hand in his, bringing it up to his lips for a chaste kiss. "Nina, always a pleasure."
"Likewise," I respond as casually as I can, and when he drops my hand, I watch as he turns to leave. The rest of the evening passes by easily, but I can't help but wonder about Declan. I shouldn't be wasting my time worrying about how he's feeling, but I can't shake it off. After we leave and get back to the hotel, I pull out my phone and open up the text app that he had installed on my phone while Bennett showers. "Where are you?" His response comes quick.
"Out."
His clipped text agitates me, but at the same time hurts me to know I've upset him. "I'm so sorry about tonight."
"It was my mistake for being there."
I stare at the screen, not sure what I should type next, but it soon vibrates with another message from him.
"Are you okay?"
"No, I miss you."
"I miss you too, darling."
When I hear the water to the shower turn off, I quickly type out my next text. "I have to go. I love you, though. I need you to know that."
"I do know. I love you too."
I shut off my phone after I read his last text and slip it back inside of my purse. When Bennett comes to bed, his hands are all over me, and even though I was just with Declan, I don't deny Bennett. So as we have sex, I numb myself to him. I act out the motions as I always do, but inside I turn every part of me off. The only thought I allow to float through my head is one that brings me a dark sense of satisfaction, knowing that this man I hate so much has his dick
covered in another man's cum as he fucks me. Chapter 29. Present. Not my face this time.
Why?
Because Bennett will be back in a week. I can't have any leftover bruises that are on my face, I tell Pike.
Okay, yeah. You're back then?
With a nod, I nervously agree.
You scared?
He asks. A little. My face hurt for a couple days after what we did. I'm okay, though, I tell him. Just do it. I turn away from Pike and tense up, waiting for the blow, but I'm greeted first by his caring touch as he runs his hands soothingly up and down my arms. But the waiting is just causing my anxiety to escalate. Please, Pike, now! The knuckles of his fist hammer into me along my shoulder blade in a puncture of violent pain that shoots down the length of my arm. The force of the blow knocks me forward, and I fall to my knees, catching myself on my hands as I cringe against the pain. Pike quickly instructs, "On your side." I immediately lie down when he strikes again. "Ow!" I scream as he kicks his booted foot into the same shoulder blade, followed by another excruciating blow, and then another. "Pike!" I shriek in utter agony as I arch my back and roll on the floor, heaving through my breathless cries. Pike drops beside me and brushes the hair away from my face as I writhe against the throbbing pain. He scoops me into his lap and holds me firmly against him while he whispers in my ear, "Just breathe. Calm down and just breathe," over and over as he rocks me in a lulling sway. It hurts to breathe, I strain. It hurts to talk, too, like someone is stepping on my lungs.
Talk to me.
There's so much pressure in my chest and back. He picks me up off the floor and carries me in his arms to his bed, where he lays me down on my back.
Take slow, deep breaths, okay?
He says, and I try to steady my trembling breathing into smooth inhales and exhales.
That's it. Just try to relax.
I lie here for quite a while until the pain starts to dull into a continuous, heated ache. After I take a few Tylenol, I shift to my side, bringing my shoulder off the bed to relieve some of the pressure. Pike spoons in behind me and lifts my top to bare my shoulder.
Fuck,
he murmurs. What?
This looks really bad.
That's the point, right? I groan.
Yeah,
he says.
This just already looks nasty.
He gently plants a few kisses around my back where I hurt, and then drags his hand over my side and up my stomach. I push his hand away when he runs it over my breast. Not tonight, I tell him.
What's going on?
He questions. I never turn down sex with Pike. It's always been something I've needed. He's my painkiller, taking away the ick in me, but for some reason I don't feel like I need it this time. I don't know, I tell him honestly. I'm okay. I don't know why I feel this way, but I do.
Come here,
he says as he gently helps me roll over to face him.
What's going on?
I see the confusion in him, but I feel it too. I've always been transparent with Pike, so I shrug and try to explain. I don't know. Everything has just been so crazy lately. Maybe I'm just distracted, but I feel like I'm okay to not have sex with you right now.
Are you sure? Because I worry about you. This worries me about you.
I'm okay, I try to assure him.
You've always needed me.
I still need you, Pike. I'm always going to need you, I tell him, and then give him a kiss. We both linger in it for a moment before he pulls back and asks,
"So how much longer do you think?"
He's pretty firm on having me to himself, I explain. He despises Bennett, so I don't think this will stretch out too long. It's hard to say, though, but he's really intense. I think if he's triggered at just the right moment, he would snap.
So you think he has it in him to kill Bennett?
Swallowing hard, I think about what I know about Declan and answer honestly. Yeah. But the thought makes my gut twist, knowing that I'm about to ruin this man's life by luring him into becoming a murderer.
Pike and I always agreed from the start that we would make sure the blame lies elsewhere. It's the only way to ensure we remain safe and can move on to our new life of wealth and satisfaction. With Bennett alone, this was so easy, but now having Declan involved has made it a little difficult for me to keep my focus. It's been a half an hour since Declan went up to the rooftop deck. When I got here and he was helping me take my coat off, I flinched in pain. He demanded to see my back, and when I showed him the black and purple bruises that cover most of my upper back, he lost his shit. I've never seen him so furious before. He then apologized and said he needed some space to calm down. He grabbed his coat and went up to his private deck and has been there ever since, leaving me here on his couch waiting for him. But the temperatures are in the negatives, and I'm worried. I go ahead and shrug my coat on before walking up the stairs to the door that leads outside. I spot him through the window, sitting on one of the wicker chairs. He has his face hidden in his hands, leaning over with his elbows resting on his knees as the snow falls over him. I feel like shit. What the fuck is wrong with me? Pull your shit together. You've got a job to do. My guilty conscience doesn't abate. I care about Declan, and I don't want to hurt him, but I have to. I have to make him feel this to drive him to kill Bennett. I just wasn't prepared to feel this way. When I notice his shivering hands, I open the door and walk over to him. He doesn't move as I kneel down in front of him, bracing my hands on his knees. Declan, my voice is soft as I speak to him. It's freezing out here. You're going to make yourself sick. He lifts his head and moves his hands to my face. I'm already sick. Seeing what he did to you was all it took. Don't let him ruin our time together, I tell him, and then stand up, taking his hands in mine. Come inside with me. We go back in and head downstairs to his bedroom. Declan doesn't speak as he walks into his closet to strip out of his cold, damp clothes and returns to me wearing nothing but long pajama bottoms. He lies down on the bed, slipping under the covers. Take your clothes off and come to me, he says. I stand in front of him as he watches me undress. The expression on his face is difficult to read as I drop my clothes to the floor. When I slip my panties off, I pull the sheets back and crawl in next to him. We hold each other close, his body freezing against my warm skin. You feel so good, he murmurs into my hair while his deft hands roam over my naked body. The need to comfort him is strong, so I wrap myself around him to warm him up. When he shifts me on top of him, I lay my chest against his, skin against skin, and he's instantly hard. Without thinking, our bodies begin to slowly move together, and I lift my head to kiss him. I want to take his pain away, the pain I inflicted. His soft lips feather against mine in light brushing kisses, sensual kisses, taking our time to simply feel each other. He lifts my head with his hands, and I look down into the honesty of his green eyes. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't even need to. I can hear him clearly in the solitude of silence between us. He really does love me. I nod my head, letting him know that I know his thoughts, that I'm here with him. The way he's touching me right now and with the stillness of the room, it would be so easy for me to escape. But I don't want to. I want to be here, be in the moment, with him. I let myself drift to a place I've never been, lost in Declan as he sits up and gently nips the bud of my nipple, hardening it to a peak before moving to the next to show the same loving attention. He savors me, and I like it. You're so beautiful, he whispers over my breasts. Gripping fistfuls of his hair in my hands, I hold him close to me while he lifts his hips and shifts his pants down. And I don't even want to wait. I rise up on my knees as he holds himself beneath me and descend down over the heat of his rock-hard cock. Our moans blend as he fills me completely, his arms banded around my waist, hugging me, his cheek to my breast. Neither one of us moves for a while as we hold each other, and when he eventually loosens his arms, he lays back and looks up at me.
I want to watch you take me.
Declan, giving up control and handing it over to me. So with his words, I slowly rise up along his cock. And when I feel the ridge of the tip slip out, I take my time and fall back down over him, sucking him inside of my warmth. It's like my body just naturally craves him, needing him. I place my hands on his chest and continue to work the length of him while he watches me. He runs his hands up my thighs and over my stomach to my tits, handling me gently, caressing me. I move my hands to his wrists and hold on to them as my eyes fall shut. I've never felt this with any other man, but it's not just now in this moment. It's every single time I'm with him. He always has a way of keeping me connected to him, never allowing my mind to drift, never allowing my body to go numb. I used to fight for that with him, but now I don't even try. Declan begins to move his hips beneath me, our bodies so in sync. There's a pressure in my chest, a foreign ache inside of me, and it begins to swell. My emotions swarm in confusion. Questions fill my head, each of them hitting the softest parts of me, parts I'm just now realizing exist within me. Why doesn't this feel dirty? Why am I not trying to escape? Why do I let him see the weak in me? Why do I hurt? Why am I suddenly doubting everything I thought I knew? Why can't I breathe? And when my eyes open, I feel everything I never thought I was worthy of. I love him. A hard hit to my heart, and I feel like I'm choking. I really love him. I see it, a shooting star above, exploding into a million flittering pieces of diamond dust. Shimmering flecks trickling over me, and when I look down, I see them landing on Declan's golden chest. A splattering of crystals, each holding their own prism of sparkles as they glitter against his skin, and then he reaches his hand up to my cheek. Still holding on to his wrists, he wipes my damp cheek. "Baby," he whispers, but I don't speak. The ache in my chest is too restricting. We don't stop moving as my tears continue to drop to his chest, and when it becomes too much, the realization that I'm falling in love with the one person I should have remained disconnected from, I choke out a painful sob. Declan quickly pulls me down to him, and I break, weeping into his neck as he hugs me against him. This has never felt okay, exposing this vulnerability that has always hidden itself inside of me. But until Declan, I never felt safe enough to expose it. I've always felt safe with him. How could I have been so blind to not see what's been happening between us? He's still deep inside of me, but we're no longer moving as he pets me, his hands gently running the length of my back, his fingers combing through my hair, while I find myself completely overcome with emotions I've never felt before. A deep connection with someone I should have kept at a distance, but somehow he found his way inside of me. "Talk to me," he says, and I slightly lift my head to look at him when I say the words I've said so many times, but this time I truly mean them. "I love you, Declan." "I know, darling." Dropping my forehead to his, I run my hand along his stubbled jaw, kneading the soothing prickles against my hand. I really love you." My confession causes his heart to pick up. I can feel it pounding against my chest. He kisses me slow and deep, tasting me, before he pulls back to speak. "This is what I've been waiting for." "What?" Sliding his hand between our bodies, he presses it against my chest, over my rapidly beating heart. "This." "You have it. It's been yours." "I haven't truly felt it until right now," he says, and then I move my hand between us and rest it over his heart as well. It thumps into my palm as he tells me, "All I want is you. I'll do whatever it takes, but I need you to know that you're completely safe with me. I'll never hurt you. I only want to love you." Knowing the web of lies I've created, I know that this will never come forth to culmination with him the way I want it to. I've created a hopeless situation in a place I never expected to find hope. But I did, and it rests inside of this man, a man I've allowed my heart to fall for. The realness is too much, knowing that all I'll come out of this with is all I've ever had, the heartbreak of life's cruel hand. And yet I don't want to fight it anymore, because I feel the same way he does. He carefully rolls me onto my back and pushes himself deep inside of me, being gentle to not hurt my bruised back.
Tell me you feel that,
he says as he looks down at me, and I nod. He pulls back, sliding his thick cock out of me before thrusting inside of me even deeper.
Tell me you feel how much I love you.
I feel it. He continues to fuck me with a powerful, slow force, each penetration going deeper and deeper. I grab onto his arms for support, his muscles flexing as his body tenses up with every intense stroke of our bare flesh, as my body begins to climb with his. When the heat ripples through me, I begin to shudder beneath him. He drops his head to mine. His cock grows even harder, thickening inside of me, pressing against my walls as they begin to constrict around his shaft, and I come hard.
Oh, fuck,
he growls, losing control of himself as he pounds into me. My moans grow louder with each pulse of sheer euphoria that shoots through me. I wrap my legs around his hips, clamping my pussy around him, milking his cock, craving every drop of his sperm that fills me up. I've never felt so loved, but it consumes me in this moment as I surrender everything that I am and hand it over to Declan. I need him to spread his feral scent all over me, as he takes me as his, to do with as he likes, because I want to be a part of him. He pins his eyes on me, and I know he can see the hunger in me when he starts fucking me even harder, refusing to stop even though he just came. His pupils are dilated black, flaring in possessive need when he hisses, "You're mine." Yes. Thrust. Thrust.
I own you.
Thrust. Completely, I breathe in submission. Thrust.
My property.
Thrust. Yes! I mewl in ecstasy as I come again, spiraling away into shrills of sensuous pleasure. He's a beast on top of me, and when he spreads my legs wide open, pressing my knees into the mattress, he slams his hips down, burying his cock inside of me to the root. With a carnal groan, I feel a warm stream of fluid flood inside of me and spill out between our connected bodies. Declan, I release on a faint breath, shocked as he fills me with his urine, claiming and marking me as his in the most animalistic way. He releases my knees and quickly slips his arms under my back, holding me close before rolling us to our sides. My breathing is staggered as we stare at each other. Maybe I should be disgusted by what he just did, considering the things Carl used to do to me, but I'm not. I'm safe. Safe enough to hand myself over to him entirely and know that he will take care of me, never hurt me. I love him, and I feel this intrinsic need to be as intimately close to him as I can possibly get.
You belong to me,
he eventually says as our bodies calm down, still connected, and bathed in his scent. Yes. He threads his fingers through my hair, asking,
"You're back. Did I hurt you?"
I shake my head slightly, responding, "You settled me. Everything you want from me is exactly what I want to give you. You don't even have to take it. Just have it because it's yours." I give my sincere words and watch as he digests them. His face softens peacefully, and when it does, I take his lips in the most loving kiss I've ever given. Without selfishness, without expectations, without malicious undertones, I give him the purest piece of my heart that I have remaining and hand it over in the most honest way I can, despite all the evil that surrounds me. In this moment of time that I have with him, I want to love him and give him the best parts of me I can find. I want to feel this, the part of life that's good, the part of life I never thought I'd feel. I want to give every last bit of what I'm feeling right now to Declan because somehow, in some magical way, he makes life feel like it's worth living. Chapter 30. Present. A rich, intoxicating fragrance fills my senses as I stir awake. Rolling over in Declan's bed, I'm alone, aside from the dozens of pure white lotus flowers that are spread over the bed and myself. Containing my smile would be a feat, so I don't even bother. The heady mixture of fruit, rain, and earth wafts through the room as I take in the beauty of the delicate blooms, Declan's favorite flower. Turning my head, I see a folded piece of paper sitting on his nightstand. I reach out and sit up, unfolding the paper to read his handwritten note.
Nina, I tried to shower you in something that was just as pure and beautiful as you, but I fell short. The Lotus was the best I could do, but they don't even come close to the perfection I see every time I look at you. I know I said we'd spend the day together, but I have to run into the office for a little while. Call me when you wake up. I miss your sweet voice already. No one could possibly love you more. D.
The phone is already ringing by the time I finish reading, as I wait for him to answer.
Good morning, he says.
When did you do this?
Secrets, darling,
he teases, and I can picture his smile now, lines crinkling at the corners of his eyes. Keep your secrets, then, as long as I continue to benefit, I joke right back.
I adore you.
When are you coming home? I ask, and his responding growl makes me laugh. What's that all about?
Fucking makes me hard that you call my place home.
You're bad, I giggle.
You have no idea.
I think I do.
No, he says, and then pauses before he continues. I don't think you could ever know how deep you run through me.
It's been nearly 2 weeks since I finally allowed myself to recognize that I love Declan. I spend every moment I can with him, and even with Bennett in the picture, we've connected in a way I didn't think two people ever could. Finish up your work and come home. I want you to show me how deep you can run through me.
Christ, you're not helping my dick by saying shit like that. I'm going to be walking around with a semi and blue balls for the rest of the day.
I laugh, telling him, good. Motivation for you to hurry up and get back here.
I'll call you when I leave. I want you naked and on your knees, waiting for me. I'll let you pick out the belt, because I'm going to have my way with you,
he demands in a low voice, causing a delightful ache between my legs. I want the one you're wearing, so that every time you look at it today, you'll think about me naked and on my knees, I say, flirting with mild laughter.
Bad girl.
I love you.
Love you,
he says before we hang up. I lie back down in the sheets, staring at the flowers and dreading tomorrow, when Bennett comes back and I have to go to my other home. I love being here with Declan. For the first time, I feel happy. Truly happy. Truth is, I'm confused. Really confused. Happy and confused. I hate what I've done here with Declan. Lying and manipulating. I want to be honest with him about who I am. I want him to know me, Elizabeth, not Nina. But there's no way to do that. I've set the ball in motion and I'm not sure how to stop it. I don't think it can be, but I want it to be. I just want to freeze time, cast a spell and make the past disappear so that I can start fresh with Declan, give him the real me. But I fucked myself. Life has fucked me. It always has. And now I must forsake the one thing I want to be greedy with, because what I want most of all is just more time with him. I pick up one of the white flowers known for their birth in muddy waters, only to grow and bloom into a flawless spread of purity. I wish for a moment that this flower could resemble me, that maybe I could be one of the lucky ones to truly get a new beginning. I've never felt as clean as I do with Declan. Not even Pike can clean me the way Declan does. But the reality is, my new beginning will still be filled with rot, destroying the life of two men, one innocent and one who deserves the destruction, to live a life of retribution. Only that retribution will forever be tainted by the memory of what this will undoubtedly do to Declan. I brush the soft petals along my lips, close my eyes, and picture my dad, my purity, my salvation, my prince. I wonder if my father sent Declan to me, if this is his gift to me, the good after all the bad. Declan used to scare me. He used to remind me of Carl with his forceful nature, his leather belts, and his affinity for tying me up. But when I started to see beyond that to the core of who he is, he reminds me of my dad, because now I can look at Declan and see that he, too, is my purity, my salvation, my prince. Even down to the creases in the corners of his eyes when he smiles, and the stubble along his face. My dad used to sing to me, and now I have Declan, who hums gently into my ear when I'm scared or sad. The way he soothes me is reminiscent of the things my father used to do. I try not to think about having to go back to sharing a bed with Bennett. This whole thing with Declan, and the knowing that I can never truly have him, is just another reason to hate Bennett even more. Needing to move and distract myself, I gather all the flowers and take them to the kitchen. Grabbing a stack of white bowls from the cabinet, I fill them with water and place the blooms down in them to float aimlessly and scatter the bowls throughout the loft. Their scent envelops every room by the time I have taken a shower and gotten cleaned up and dressed for the day. I decide to go ahead and call Bennett, since it's after 5 o'clock there, and he should be heading back to his hotel with Baldwin. Our call is the typical, and after we talk for almost an hour, we hang up. Things are going to get tricky for a while because Bennett informs me that his schedule is about to free up on his travel, meaning he's going to be home on a more steady basis. The thought of having to leave Declan's bed to spend the nights with Bennett is depressing. I didn't know I needed the comfort as much as I do, and Declan gives it to me perfectly, and in a way that Pike could never completely fill for me. Not wanting to dwell on having to leave tomorrow, I busy myself and decide to surprise Declan by attempting to cook for him. I go to the office and start surfing the internet for an easy, burn-proof recipe. His scent is encased within his leather chair, and I can't fight the sadness that finds my heart as I sit at his desk, in his office, surrounded by everything Declan. I find a pasta dish that seems like something I can manage, and quickly print it off so that I can get out of here